he was signed to a $28 million endorsement contract and did nothing. Nobody has proof of anything that he did. Zero things. No likes, no retweets, no posts, no tree.
To do was find Aspiration's bankruptcy filing. And I gotta now reach over to this file over here to get this. Is this it? Yes, this is it. In this packet, there is a clue.
Welcome back. Kawhi Leonard has just been hit with the NBA's most jaw-dropping scandal ever. A lifetime ban tied to a staggering $28 million fraud scheme. And guess what? He's not the only one caught in the mess. The receipts are finally spilling, and the quiet superstar who built his reputation on mystery and 2 championship rings now finds himself painted as the face of one of the dirtiest scandals the league has ever seen. It all starts with a company most fans never even heard of until it blew up in flames. In March 2025, an eco-banking firm called Aspiration collapsed, filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. What they left behind? Broken promises, scammed investors, and a long creditor list that opened the door to one of the most elaborate salary cap scandals in NBA history.
For example, let's say, purely hypothetically, that you had 3,487 pages of documents, and that added up to a single tree. Aspiration, what they did was offer to balance that out by arranging the planting of 1 tree in your name, replacing the tree that you killed.
That's when investigative journalist Pablo Torre stepped in and spotted something hiding in the bankruptcy files that flipped the whole case upside down. Buried deep inside the stack of documents was a shocking link between the failed green banking company and Kawhi himself. Turns out, KL2 Aspire LLC, a firm owing $7 million, was directly tied to Leonard. Torre traced the name through California's Secretary of State records, and the truth came out.
To my knowledge, out of all of the projects that Aspiration undertook for carbon offsets, there was only 1 site visit during my tenure.
Wait, so just to be clear, I'm looking at a spreadsheet with a zillion, approximately, projects having to do with forestation and tree plantings.
The company was registered under Kawhi Leonard, with his jersey number 2 stamped all over it. What looked like just another corporate filing unraveled into a 7-month deep dive uncovering nearly 3,500 pages of contracts, money trails, and evidence. And at the center of it, a massive endorsement deal with Aspiration, a company that promised to save the planet by planting trees, while secretly planting the seeds of a scandal that could take down one of the NBA's most unshakable stars. But here's the kicker. This wasn't just your average endorsement deal. The way it was structured would leave even the sharpest contract lawyers scratching their heads in disbelief. To really grasp how insane this is, we've got to rewind and look at the company pulling the strings. Aspiration, founded back in 2013 by 2 ambitious Harvard grads.
So what I started doing was reaching out to dozens of former Aspiration employees. And I was looking for any information about KL2 Aspire LLC. And what happened was, a grand total of 7 of them ultimately agreed to interviews.
Andre Cherney, once the youngest speechwriter in White House history, and Joe Sandberg, a private equity player who cashed out on ventures like Blue Apron. Aspiration branded itself as the eco-friendly banking alternative for the modern era. Their pitch was genius and sneaky at the same time. For every customer transaction, the company promised to plant trees, canceling out carbon emissions and making people feel like heroes, while Aspiration raked in massive profits. And they didn't just sell an idea, they sold a dream with Hollywood firepower. Their celebrity strategy looked like a blockbuster movie cast, the literal Avengers of climate change. Robert Downey Jr. lent his Iron Man voice to their commercials. Leonardo DiCaprio bought in as both investor and board advisor, and even Drake threw money behind them, hyping their inspiring mission in Rolling Stone. Add Orlando Bloom, Cindy Crawford, and her daughter Kaya Gerber to the roster, and suddenly, Aspiration had A-listers lining up like it was the hottest ticket in town.
Grand total number of times that I found Kawhi Leonard ever publicly referencing Aspiration was this.
Ultimately, 0.
0 times
Right.
Kawhi Leonard mentioned Aspiration.
With all that star power, the money poured in, $865 million raised, and a wild $2.3 billion valuation by 2021. Investors range from entertainment moguls to Fortune 500 giants desperate to polish their green image. On paper, the company looked unstoppable, marching toward an IPO that would crown them kings of the eco-finance world. But behind the shiny press releases and celebrity endorsements lurked something rotten, a ticking time bomb waiting to explode, and Kawhi Leonard's name was about to be dragged straight into it. While Aspiration dazzled the world with celebrity endorsements and eco-friendly promises, something way darker was happening behind the curtain. Federal investigators later revealed that most of the company's green claims were smoke and mirrors, exaggerated at best, flat out fabricated at worst. Those tree planting programs they bragged about, many were unverified and some never even existed. The whole empire was basically a house of cards built on lies, designed to make customers and investors feel good while the money quietly disappeared. The fraud finally blew wide open in August 2025 when co-founder Joe Sandberg pled guilty to ripping off investors for a staggering $243 to $248 million. DOJ and SEC reports showed Aspiration had been running a systematic con, lying about its finances, faking success stories, and selling environmental fantasies that never checked out. But here's the shocking part.
The month after that, it turns out, Steve Ballmer, this is September, broke ground on the Intuit Dome. Now, this is, David, the most expensive NBA arena ever constructed.
The environmental scam was just the surface level. Pablo Torre's digging exposed a bombshell deal hidden deep in the paperwork, and it all led straight back to Kawhi Leonard. Turns out the most secretive and outrageous endorsement wasn't with Robert Downey Jr., Drake, or Leonardo DiCaprio. It was Kawhi who had the crown jewel contract. The bankruptcy filing that kicked this whole investigation off revealed KL2 Aspire LLC was owed the final $7 million payment on a jaw-dropping 4-year, $28 million endorsement deal. But this wasn't a standard brand partnership. Torre's insider sources dropped the real bomb. The deal was deliberately structured to sidestep NBA salary cap rules. The receipts painted a picture of careful plotting and calculated deception, with internal records confirming Leonard's contract was the largest endorsement Aspiration ever handed out, worth more than 4 times the combined value of every other celeb deal they signed. And unlike Robert Downey Jr. fronting commercials or Drake giving magazine interviews, Kawhi's arrangement was hidden from the public like a dirty secret the league never wanted exposed. Kawhi's silence wasn't just his usual private persona, it was part of the plan. Torre's investigation uncovered that Leonard never once promoted Aspiration. Not a single post, no interviews, no events, nothing. For a man supposedly pocketing $7 million a year to endorse a company, his promo efforts were completely invisible. And that absence wasn't an accident. Torre got hold of the actual signed endorsement contract, and the terms were jaw-dropping. The deal was set up from day one as a no-show job. Kawhi didn't have to lift a finger, didn't have to say the company's name once. This wasn't sloppy oversight. It was built into the agreement like a hidden loophole that screamed corruption. To understand just how dirty this gets, you've got to look at the bigger picture. The NBA's salary cap rules and Leonard's connection to the Los Angeles Clippers and their billionaire owner, Steve Ballmer. The threads linking Kawhi, Ballmer, and Aspiration weave together into what insiders are calling a cardinal sin against competitive balance. And here's where it gets wild. This wasn't some backroom slip-up. The deal reads like a carefully crafted playbook for cheating the system. Behind the scenes, all signs pointed to one mastermind pulling strings, Steve Ballmer himself. With a net worth north of $100 billion and ranked as the 6th richest man in the world, Ballmer was in a unique position to bankroll a scheme of this size. And with Kawhi as his ace on the court, the setup looked like the most sophisticated salary cap dodge in NBA history. Steve Ballmer wasn't just the Clippers owner. He was also Aspiration's biggest private investor. That double role put him in the perfect position to engineer one of the slickest scams the NBA has ever seen. The timeline Torre pieced together shows a step-by-step scheme so polished it now raises every red flag in the league's rulebook. In August 2021, Kawhi inked his 4-year, $176 million max extension with the Clippers. On paper, it looked like business as usual, but just a month later, Ballmer pulled the trigger on a move that would secretly anchor the whole scandal. By September 2021, he broke ground on the Intuit Dome, the Clippers' flashy new arena, and at the very same moment, announced Aspiration as a founding partner in a $300 million, 23-year sponsorship deal. This wasn't just some naming rights gimmick. It was sold to the public as the ultimate green partnership, positioning the Intuit Dome as the most sustainable arena in the world. perfectly matching Ballmer's eco-friendly image. But behind the press releases, this deal planted the seeds of corruption. Here's the smoking gun Torre uncovered. In November 2021, just 2 months after Ballmer's mega investment in Aspiration, Kawhi quietly registered KL2 Aspire LLC in California. That timing? Too perfect to ignore. Insiders at Aspiration later confirmed it was no coincidence. It was part of a systematic plan to dodge salary cap restrictions. And the contract Torre finally pulled back the curtain on told the real story. A 4-year, $28 million endorsement deal, effective April 1st, 2022, filled with jaw-dropping clauses. The agreement was so one-sided, it was practically bulletproof. Kawhi would get paid no matter how little he actually did. In fact, the fine print made it nearly impossible for him to breach the contract, even if he never lifted a finger. The fine print of Kawhi's contract wasn't just unusual, it was downright outrageous. Instead of looking like a standard endorsement agreement, it read more like a guaranteed payout plan dressed up as marketing. One clause gave Leonard total control over all content and distribution, meaning he could veto any promo request from Aspiration without facing a single penalty. Another section went even further, stating Leonard could reject any action if he personally felt it didn't align with his beliefs, basically giving him a blank check to do nothing and still cash in. When David Sampson, former Miami Marlins president and sports contract expert, reviewed the agreement during Torre's investigation, even he admitted he was floored. The so-called obligations were laughably light. Kawhi only had to sign 50 items total, make 5 casual social media posts, and submit 1 photo per month during the NBA season. That's it, and here's the kicker. Leonard didn't even bother fulfilling those minimal duties, but the most explosive part of the contract was buried in the termination clause. It flat out stated that the deal could be canceled if Leonard was no longer a Clippers player, directly tying every payment to his job with the team. That detail blew the cover off the scheme, proving the money wasn't really about Kawhi's star power or brand. It was about keeping him in a Clippers jersey at all costs. The money trail sealed it. Steve Ballmer personally poured $50 million into Aspiration through his LLC, PAC Money, which became the crucial funding stream for Kawhi's $28 million endorsement. That $50 million wasn't just a random investment, it was part of a massive $315 million fundraising round that pumped Aspiration's valuation to $2.3 billion in late 2021. Behind the glossy headlines of green finance, the numbers showed exactly how this so-called partnership was engineered to look clean on the outside, while hiding a rigged system underneath. According to 7 separate sources inside Aspiration, the only reason the company could afford Kawhi Leonard's staggering $28 million contract was because of Steve Ballmer's massive cash injection. One former employee, their voice disguised to avoid blowback from ongoing federal investigations, dropped a bombshell when speaking to Torre. They admitted Leonard's deal was openly described inside the company as straight-up salary cap circumvention. Executives even joked about it, acknowledging how shady it was, while bragging about having pulled off the biggest loophole in pro sports. The numbers tell the story. Leonard's contract wasn't just big, it was the single largest endorsement deal in Aspiration's history, dwarfing every other celebrity contract combined by 4 times. And yet Kawhi never did a single bit of promotional work. No ads, no posts, nothing. It was cash for silence, and everyone in the room knew it. But Ballmer's fingerprints were all over this scheme. Internal emails Torre obtained showed the Clippers owner going way beyond investor. He was actively brokering connections, sending glowing introductions for Aspiration's founders, and even personally linking them to the CEO of Intuit in November 2021. In one email, Ballmer raved about their shared passion for the Clippers and the Intuit Dome project, practically acting as Aspiration's unpaid spokesperson. And the web gets tighter. It was Clippers officials themselves who first introduced Leonard to Aspiration in early November 2021. The timing couldn't have been more suspicious. Kawhi's LLC had just been registered. Ballmer's $50 million investment was nearly finalized. And suddenly, this secret endorsement deal fell right into place. What looked like business networking now reads like the blueprint of one of the boldest NBA cap dodges ever attempted. Sure, on paper, those introductions might squeak by NBA rules, but the timing makes it impossible not to question intent. When you break down the roles, the sophistication of this alleged scheme is undeniable. Ballmer fronted the money through his massive investment. Aspiration acted as the payment funnel, and Leonard pocketed compensation that, while technically separate from his NBA contract, was clearly chained to his status as a Clippers star. The genius and the danger of this setup was how legit it all looked on the surface, with Aspiration rolling out high-profile sponsorships, celebrity endorsements, and public green campaigns. Kawhi's secret $28 million deal stayed completely invisible. No announcements, no press releases, not even a whisper. It was buried so deep the public never stood a chance of finding it. The only reason it finally surfaced? Pablo Torre's obsessive deep dive into bankruptcy filings that most people wouldn't even glance at. And here's where it gets damning. Internal emails show that by 2022, as Aspiration started to buckle under financial strain, Kawhi's deal was untouchable. Former employees admitted that in weekly crisis meetings about which bills to pay, Leonard's contract was always priority number one. While staff, vendors, and even major creditors went unpaid, Kawhi's checks kept flowing like clockwork. The story gets even messier with the role of Dennis Robertson, aka Uncle Dennis. As Leonard's longtime advisor, he became the enforcer when money troubles hit. Sources say Robertson would call Aspiration directly, demanding payments on Kawhi's behalf, and those demands were treated as non-negotiable. No matter how close the company was to collapsing, Uncle Dennis made sure Leonard's millions never stopped, even as the entire house of cards fell apart around them. The sheer precision of this setup makes it clear this wasn't some sloppy accident or random fraud. The timeline tells the story. Kawhi's contract extension, Ballmer's massive investment, the Clippers' sponsorship deal, and Leonard's secret endorsement all locked together like puzzle pieces. The coordination is impossible to ignore, no matter how loudly everyone denies it. And who better to mastermind such a slick operation than Steve Ballmer? As the former Microsoft CEO and one of the richest men alive, he had both the billions and the brains to engineer transactions so layered they could slip under the radar. His investment in Aspiration wasn't about saving trees or padding his portfolio. It was the financial pipeline that made these hidden payments to Kawhi possible while giving everyone involved a shield of plausible deniability. But no scheme this big can stay hidden forever. As federal investigators turned up the heat, this carefully built house of cards started collapsing under its own contradictions. What insiders once joked about as the perfect loophole is now being branded as one of the boldest fraud operations in NBA history, with consequences that could shake the league to its core. The fallout has already been brutal. NBA officials are now calling this the most brazen case of salary cap cheating in over 2 decades, and the penalties looming over the Clippers could rewrite the league's rulebook. The first cracks appeared back in 2022 when Aspiration started bleeding cash despite raising hundreds of millions from star-studded investors. Former employees say the company couldn't cover basic bills, yet Leonard's multi-million-dollar checks never stopped. While everyone else got stiffed, Kawhi's payments remained top priority, exposing just how deeply the fraud was baked into the system. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share to stay in the loop with all the latest tea. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an update, and I'll catch you in the next video.